Something is about to happen on center court that nobody in this sport saw coming. And the strangest part is that the warning signs were there all along if you knew where to look. 48 hours ago, a 21-year-old walked onto a side court at the All England club carrying a memory that had haunted her for a full year, and by the time she walked off, she had turned that memory into a weapon. Now, she's about to face the one player on the entire tour who might actually be more dangerous wounded than she ever was at her peak. And the question nobody can answer yet is simple. Is Alex ready for this? Or is she about to learn the hardest lesson tennis has to teach? Let's rewind, because to understand what's coming, you need to understand what almost broke her a year ago. On English grass not far from where she's playing now, Alex lost a final that went all the way to a tiebreak in the deciding set. The kind of scoreline that doesn't just end a match, it lodges itself somewhere behind your ribs and stays there. She has admitted in her own quiet way that she couldn't watch the replays for months. Some losses fade. That one didn't. It waited. And 2 days ago, on a different court, against the exact same opponent, it finally got its answer. The opponent's name was Maya, and Maya arrived into that match on the kind of high that changes a career overnight. Because in the round before, she had done something almost nobody expected. She had beaten Serena Williams. Not a faded ceremonial Serena, either, but a Serena the entire tennis world had been watching with held breath, wondering if the fairy tale had one more chapter left. Maya wrote a different chapter. She ended it. And she carried every ounce of that momentum, that adrenaline, that borrowed belief straight into her match with Alex. For one set, it looked like history was going to repeat itself. Maya broke serve early, controlled the rallies, dictated everything, and took the first set 6-3. If you were watching live, you could feel the story writing itself in real time. Too much pressure. Too big a stage. Here we go again. But something happened in the changeover that the cameras couldn't quite capture. Something internal. Something that had been building for exactly 1 year. Alex didn't panic. She simplified. She tightened. She stopped reacting to Maya's rhythm and started imposing her own geometry on the court, taking the ball earlier, coming forward when nobody expected her to. The second set disappeared 6-2, and then came the third set. And this is where it stops being a tennis match and starts being something closer to a message. 6-0 for Maya. A bagel delivered in a Wimbledon match against a woman who 72 hours earlier had ended the comeback of a legend. Final score 3-6, 6-2, 6-love. This wasn't just a win. This was Alex reaching back exactly 12 months, grabbing the version of herself that couldn't watch her own highlights, and finally letting her rest. And here's a detail that tells you everything about who this young woman actually is. Stitched into the brim of her white visor, long before she ever stepped onto the grass, was a phrase in Tagalog. Kapag lumago, hindi nahi hinto. Once it grows, it cannot be stopped. It wasn't there for a sponsor moment or the cameras. She's talked about carrying her culture and her country onto the court with her every time she steps out. You cannot coach that kind of clarity. Either you have it or you don't. And all of that, the Birmingham title, back-to-back top 10 wins in Berlin over Elena Rybakina and Alina Svitolina, back-to-back Wimbledon victories including a comeback that ended in a bagel, all of it now collides with a name that carries more weight than almost anyone else in the sport. The defending champion, the woman who won this exact tournament 12 months ago. So, now you're probably thinking, okay, this is where the underdog story ends because you don't walk into a match against someone like that with momentum alone. And normally, you'd be right. Except 2026 has been a genuinely strange year for the defending champion. And the deeper you look into her season, the more unsettling the picture becomes. T started to unravel in Miami, where she lost her opening match from a set-up to fellow Pole Magda Linette, a result that would have seemed unthinkable a year earlier. Within days, she and longtime coach Wim Fissette had split. A new team, built around Rafael Nadal's former coach Francisco Roig, was supposed to steady the ship heading into the clay season. It didn't, not fully. She fell to Elena Rybakina in the Australian Open quarterfinals, to Mira Andreeva in Stuttgart, and then came Madrid. A mid-match retirement in tears in the third round. trailing an unseeded American after her body simply gave out. She later revealed it was a virus, dizziness, blurred vision, zero stability. It was only the third retirement of her entire career. Then came the moment that should have been unthinkable. Roland Garros, her fortress, the place she has won 4 times, the place where she operated for years in a different tier from literally everyone else on tour. She lost in the 4th round in straight sets to a player who, on paper, had no business taking her apart that convincingly. Her grass court tune-up went no better, an opening loss in 3 sets in Bad Homburg, her second straight defeat to the same American opponent. She arrived at Wimbledon still searching for her first title of the season. Her first match here told an even more complicated story. A dominant first set, a completely lost second set, and a battle just to survive into a third. For someone who has spent years being the most composed presence in the sport, that kind of visible inconsistency tells you the pressure isn't some abstract narrative anymore. It's real, and it's sitting on her shoulders every time she walks onto a court. Her second round match looked cleaner on the scoreboard, a straightforward win. But even that had more to do with a lopsided matchup than a return to old form. So here's the real question heading into this third-round collision, and it's not whether the champion is dangerous, because she is always dangerous. 6 Grand Slam titles do not evaporate because of one difficult season. The real question is which version of her actually walks out onto that court. The one who has been unraveling under pressure all year, or the one who has spent a career finding her best tennis exactly when everyone assumes she's finished. And here's where the story gets genuinely interesting, because this isn't the first time these two have played each other. 15 months ago in the quarterfinals in Miami, when Alex was largely unproven at this level, she beat the woman who would go on to win Wimbledon the following year, 6 games to 2, 7 games to 5. She didn't win it by accident. She won it by standing inside the baseline, attacking second serves before they could settle, refusing to let her opponent dictate rally length. A month later on clay in Madrid, the champion answered back, coming from a set down to win in 3, 4-6, 6-4, 6-2. 1 win apiece. Hard court to the underdog, clay to the champion. And now, for the very first time, they collide on grass. A surface neither has ever tested the other one on. This is where the tactical picture gets fascinating because grass does not distribute advantages fairly between these two styles. The champion's greatest weapon has always been a forehand loaded with heavy topspin. The kind of shot that kicks up violently on clay, stealing an opponent's preparation time before they even see it arrive. On grass, that same shot behaves completely differently. The bounce stays low. The kick flattens out. She has to change, has to flatten her own shots, has to lean on her serve as a stabilizer in a way she rarely needs to elsewhere. And interestingly, across their head-to-head history, Alex has actually been the slightly better returner of the champion's second serve than the champion has been of hers. A small margin. But on this surface, small margins are everything. Now, look at what Alex does on this exact surface, and it's almost the mirror opposite. She hits flat through the court rather than over it, taking the ball early in a way that demands split-second timing. Timing she's clearly been sharpening all grass season. Her left-handed serve creates an awkward skidding angle into the body of right-handed opponents. And she's been coming to the net more aggressively this grass season than at any other point in her career. Those serve and volley sequences against Maya weren't improvisation. They were a calculated decision built to disrupt someone who thrives on long, controlled baseline exchanges. But before anyone crowns the underdog too early, let's pump the brakes because doing that would be just as foolish as writing her off completely. This is still a 6-time Grand Slam champion ranked inside the world's top 4. She has, in her own words ahead of this match, called Alex's game tricky precisely because it doesn't give her rhythm. And she's openly said she knows she'll need to prepare for a different kind of shot than she usually sees. Bookmakers still list her as a heavy favorite. She has walked through terrifying moments before and found her way through them. And Alex, for all her momentum, has never stood this deep in a Grand Slam before. This is already the first time in the Open era a Filipina has reached the third round of a major singles draw. This is uncharted psychological territory for a 21-year-old about to face a legend on one of the sport's biggest stages, in front of a crowd that will not sound like anything Wimbledon has typically hosted. The Filipino community across the United Kingdom has been turning Alex's matches into something the All England club has simply never seen before. Flags waving from every corner of the stands. Chants rising and falling with every rally. If Alex manages to break early and pull that crowd fully into the match, the psychological weight on the other side of the net becomes something entirely different to carry. So, keep your eyes on 3 specific things once this match actually begins, because they will tell you the direction of the entire contest long before the scoreboard does. Watch where Alex stands to return serve. If she steps inside the baseline and attacks early the way she did in Miami, it means her confidence has fully arrived. If she backs off, the occasion is starting to win. Watch how deep the champion's forehand is landing in the opening exchanges. When she's dialed in, it pins opponents back immediately. When something is off, it lands short and becomes an invitation rather than a weapon. And watch the second serve under pressure if this stretches into a third set, because the champion's inconsistency in tight moments has been the single biggest storyline of her season. Everything, the head-to-head, the surface, the form lines, the crowd, the psychological weight each woman is carrying onto that court, points to something the seedings and rankings could never fully capture on paper. This match is genuinely dangerously open. Not because of hope, not because of a good story, but because of cold, specific evidence sitting right there for anyone willing to look closely enough. A year ago, Alex couldn't bring herself to watch a loss to a dangerous, unpredictable opponent. Now she's about to walk out onto the biggest court of her life carrying that memory like fuel instead of weight. Wearing 4 words in her own language that promise once something starts growing, nothing can stop it. Whether that promise holds up under the loudest pressure she has ever faced is the one thing not even the numbers can tell you yet. You're going to have to watch to find out.